The crystal chandeliers of the Grand Plaza Hotel's ballroom cast dancing shadows across the annual Morrison family reunion. I adjusted my simple black dress, feeling distinctly out of place among the designer labels and diamond jewelry that adorned my more successful relatives. At 35, I was the family's designated disappointment, or so they thought. Anna, there you are. My cousin Victoria's voice carried across the room with practiced authority. She was impeccably dressed in a Chanel suit, her recent promotion to executive vice president at Morrison Technologies evident in her bearing. We were just discussing everyone's achievements this year. I fought the urge to check my phone where an urgent email about tomorrow's billion-dollar merger sat unanswered. Instead, I plastered on a polite smile and braced myself for the annual ritual of subtle degradation. Hello, Victoria. Congratulations on your promotion. I kept my voice neutral, remembering the stack of confidential documents in my home office that bore Victoria's increasingly desperate signature requests from the past month. Thank you, darling. She air-kissed my cheek, her perfume expensive and overwhelming. I'm surprised you heard about it, given how disconnected you are from the corporate world. She gestured to our gathered relatives. We were just discussing how everyone's doing so well. James made partner at his law firm, Sarah's running her department at Goldman Sachs, and of course I'm handling Morrison Tech's biggest merger yet. Victoria's mother and my father's sister, Aunt Eleanor, joined us, champagne flute in hand. And what about you, Anna? Still doing that consulting thing? The way she said consulting made it sound like I was selling magazine subscriptions door to door. If only they knew that Phoenix Consulting Group, the firm they dismissed so easily, was actually... Yes, Aunt Eleanor. Still consulting. I sipped my water, thinking of the meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning where Morrison Technologies' fate would be decided, though Victoria didn't know that yet. 10 years, Victoria mused, shaking her head with exaggerated concern. 10 years since you left that promising position at Anderson & Co. to find your own path. And what do you have to show for it? A small consulting practice that nobody's ever heard of. I thought about the private island I'd purchased last month, the 3 homes in different countries, and the fact that I was Victoria's boss's boss's boss. Not that she knew it. Phoenix Consulting Group operated entirely through subsidiaries and shell companies, with my name carefully hidden from public records. As the founder and CEO, I'd built it into one of the most powerful consulting firms in the world, specializing in corporate restructuring and major mergers. We do all right, I said mildly. How's the merger going, Victoria? I heard there were some complications. Her perfectly maintained smile flickered for just a moment. Nothing I can't handle, though I wouldn't expect you to understand the complexities of a billion-dollar merger. James, our cousin who just made partner at his law firm, joined our little circle. Are you still working out of that small office downtown, Anna? You know, I could help you find a real job. My firm's always looking for administrative support. I bit back a laugh, remembering the meeting last week where James's firm had desperately pitched their services to Phoenix Consulting Group, unaware that the mysterious CEO they were trying to impress was standing right in front of them. That's so kind of you, James, I said, watching him preen at my apparent gratitude, but I'm comfortable where I am. Oh, honey, Aunt Eleanor interjected, her voice dripping with false sympathy. You shouldn't settle for comfortable. Look at Victoria, she's about to close the biggest deal in Morrison Tech history. The merger with Global Tech will make her career. If they only knew that Global Tech was one of my shell companies, created specifically to force Morrison Tech into a position where they'd need Phoenix Consulting Group's help. Victoria's biggest deal was actually my carefully orchestrated plan to teach my family a much-needed lesson in humility. Speaking of the merger, Victoria said, checking her designer watch. Early meeting tomorrow with the consulting team. They're just advisors, of course, but we have to humor them. She gave me a patronizing smile. You should come by the office sometime, Anna. See what a real business looks like. I thought about the meeting she was referring to, the one where I would be sitting at the head of the table, not as Anna Morrison, the family disappointment, but as Anne Phoenix, the reclusive founder of Phoenix Consulting Group. Actually, I said, finishing my water, I have an early meeting tomorrow too. A signing ceremony for a rather important contract. Oh, James smirked. Finally landed a big client for your little consultation business? Something like that, I smiled, thinking of the stunned expressions I'd see tomorrow. You could say tomorrow will change everything. As I left the reunion, I heard Victoria's carrying whisper, "Poor Anna, still a nobody after all these years. What a waste of potential." In my car, I finally checked the email that had been buzzing in my pocket. It was from my COO. "Everything's set for tomorrow. Morrison Tech's board is desperate to close this deal. They don't realize we're the ones holding all the cards." I drove home to my penthouse apartment, the one my family didn't know about, and spent the evening reviewing the final documents for tomorrow's meeting. The merger agreement was complex, deliberately so. Buried within its hundreds of pages were clauses that would give Phoenix Consulting Group significant control over Morrison Tech's operations. Victoria thought she was orchestrating a simple merger. In reality, she was about to hand control of her company to the cousin she'd spent years mocking. In my home office, I opened my safe and pulled out a thick folder labeled Project Morrison. Inside were years of documentation, every dismissive comment, every condescending remark, matched with corresponding business decisions that had slowly but surely led Morrison Tech into my web. Tomorrow they would finally learn that success doesn't always wear designer labels or broadcast itself from chandeliered ballrooms. Sometimes it works quietly in the shadows, building something far bigger than anyone could imagine. I picked up my phone and dialed my assistant. "Sarah, make sure the conference room is ready for tomorrow's 9 a.m. meeting. And please have the photographer on standby. I want to capture every moment when the Morrison family realizes who really runs Phoenix Consulting Group." As I prepared for bed, I couldn't help but smile at the thought of tomorrow's revelation. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with a billion-dollar merger agreement and a signature line that reads, "And Phoenix, CO." The Phoenix Consulting Group's headquarters occupied the top 5 floors of downtown's most prestigious office tower. I stood in my private elevator, ascending to the penthouse conference room, watching the city wake up through the glass walls. "Good morning, Miss Phoenix," my assistant Sarah greeted me as I stepped out. After 10 years, she was one of the few who knew both sides of my life. "The Morrison Tech team is waiting in the main conference room. Your cousin Victoria is apparently quite vocal about the delay." I checked my reflection in the brushed steel walls. Gone was the intentionally understated Anna from last night's reunion. Today I was Phoenix, CEO of one of the world's most powerful consulting firms. "How long have they been waiting?" I asked, already knowing the answer. 20 minutes, Sarah's smile held a touch of mischief. "Miss Morrison has mentioned her important position approximately 12 times. Well then," I straightened my jacket, "let's not keep them waiting any longer." The main conference room was a testament to power, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a commanding view of the city. Victoria stood at one end of the massive table, mid-rant about the disrespect of being kept waiting. James sat nearby, presumably there as Morrison Tech's legal counsel. Several board members, including my uncle Robert, Victoria's father, and Morrison Tech's CEO, occupied the other seats. Finally, Victoria exclaimed as the door opened. "Do you have any idea who I dash?" Her voice trailed off as I walked in, her expression shifting from outrage to confusion to disbelief. "Anna." James stood up so quickly he knocked over his water glass. "What are you doing here? This is a private meeting." I walked calmly to the head of the table, setting my briefcase down with a quiet click that seemed to echo in the stunned silence. "Good morning, everyone. I apologize for the delay. Shall we begin discussing the Morrison Tech Global Tech merger?" Uncle Robert found his voice first. "Anna, this is highly inappropriate. Where is Phoenix? We're here to meet with the CEO." "You are." I sat down, nodding to Sarah, who began distributing folders. Phoenix. Anna Morrison Phoenix, founder and CEO of Phoenix Consulting Group, and as of this morning, the majority shareholder of Global Tech Industries. The silence that followed was absolute. Victoria had gone pale, her designer dress suddenly seeming like a child's costume. James was frantically flipping through the documents Sarah had distributed, his legal training kicking in as he searched for a loophole. This is impossible," Victoria stammered. "You're just a small-time consultant. You work out of a tiny office downtown." "That office?" I smiled. "It's one of our meeting spaces for local clients. Phoenix Consulting Group operates in 47 countries, Victoria. We own this building, and as of today, we're about to own a controlling interest in Morrison Technologies." Uncle Robert slammed his hand on the table. "This is outrageous. This is some kind of trick. You're just jealous of Victoria's success. I calmly opened my laptop and projected a series of documents onto the wall screen. Let's review, shall we? 5 years ago, Morrison Tech began losing market share. You needed capital, so you started taking loans from Global Tech Financial, one of my subsidiaries. 3 years ago, Victoria's brilliant expansion strategy put you further in debt. And last year, when you were desperate for a merger partner, we found Global Tech, Victoria whispered, realization dawning on her face. No, cousin. Global Tech found you. Or more accurately, I positioned it to save you. I clicked through more slides. Every loan, every contract, every deal you thought you cleverly negotiated, it was all part of my plan. James jumped up, his legal instincts kicking in. This is corporate manipulation. We'll fight this in court. By all means, I smiled, pulling out another folder. But first, you might want to review these. I slid copies across the table. Detailed records of every instance of corporate fraud at Morrison Tech over the past decade. The inflated profits, the hidden losses, the shell companies you created to dodge taxes. Yes, James, including the ones you helped set up. The color drained from both their faces. Uncle Robert sank into his chair, suddenly looking every bit his age. Why? Victoria's voice cracked. Why go to all this trouble? I leaned forward. Remember Dad's company? The one he built from nothing? The one you and Uncle Robert forced him to sell during his illness, claiming you'd protect his legacy? Uncle Robert shifted uncomfortably. We gave him fair market value. Fair. I felt years of controlled anger surface. You manipulated his medication schedule to ensure he wasn't lucid during the negotiations. You convinced Mom that selling was the only way to pay for his treatment. Then you stripped the company for parts and laid off hundreds of loyal employees. I stood up, walking to the window. Dad died believing his life's work had failed. That's when I decided to build something he would have been proud of, something that would eventually bring justice. So this is revenge? James scoffed, though his voice trembled. No, I turned back to face them. This is business. Phoenix Consulting Group legitimately owns controlling interest in Morrison Tech now. Every contract is legal, every transaction documented. The only difference is I'll run it the way Dad would have, with integrity. Victoria, always quick to spot an angle, straightened up. We can work something out, Anna. We're family after all. I could help you manage Dash. Actually, I interrupted, your position has been eliminated in the new organization structure. But don't worry, I'm not heartless. You'll receive a generous severance package, provided you sign these non-disclosure agreements. As Sarah distributed the paperwork, I continued, James, your law firm's services will no longer be required. And Uncle Robert, your retirement package is detailed on page 3. The next hour was a blur of signatures and subdued legal discussions. As the room slowly emptied, Victoria lingered at the door. All these years, she said quietly, while we were mocking you, I was building an empire, I finished. One that honors Dad's memory. After they left, Sarah brought in a familiar wooden box, Dad's old humidor that used to sit on his desk. Your father would be proud, she said softly. I opened the box and pulled out a photo, Dad at his company's opening day, young and full of dreams. Next to it, I placed a new photo, the Phoenix Consulting Group logo now mounted on the Morrison Tech building. The thing about Phoenixes, I murmured, is that they rise from the ashes stronger than before. My phone buzzed, the stock market had opened and Morrison Tech's shares were soaring under its new management. Dad's legacy wasn't just restored, it was transformed into something even greater. As I looked out over the city, I thought about tonight's charity gala. Another family event where the Morrisons traditionally flaunted their success. This time I wouldn't be the quiet cousin in the corner. This time, I'd be the one making the announcements about Morrison Tech's new direction, its commitment to ethical business practices, and its renewed dedication to its employees. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about building something so magnificent that their petty achievements pale in comparison. And as I prepared for the evening ahead, I couldn't help but smile at the thought of Victoria's face when she realized that her nobody cousin now controlled not just her company, but her entire future. Success, after all, is the sweetest revenge. That evening, the annual Morrison Family Foundation Gala was in full swing at the same Grand Plaza Hotel where we'd had our reunion just yesterday. But tonight was different. Tonight I wasn't hiding anymore. I arrived fashionably late, wearing a custom Alexander McQueen gown that cost more than Victoria's monthly salary. The whispers started immediately as I walked in. News of the morning's events had spread like wildfire through the family. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer's voice boomed, "please welcome Ms. and Phoenix Morrison, CEO of Phoenix Consulting Group and the new chairman of Morrison Technologies." The silence was deafening. Aunt Eleanor nearly dropped her champagne glass. Across the room, Victoria stood frozen, her usual social circle having already deserted her for more promising connections. I took the stage with measured steps, enjoying the weight of every eye in the room. "Good evening, everyone. Today marks a new chapter for Morrison Technologies." I paused, surveying the crowd. "And a new chapter for our family's legacy." The presentation screen behind me lit up with images, Dad's original company logo morphing into the Phoenix Consulting Group emblem, then merging with Morrison Tech's brand. 10 years ago when I left Anderson & Company, many of you thought I was throwing away my future. My eyes found Victoria's in the crowd. What you didn't know was that I was building something bigger than any of us could imagine. I clicked to the next slide, showing Phoenix Consulting Group's global reach. While you were all focused on your corner offices and executive titles, I was creating a network that spans 5 continents. While you mocked my little consulting business, I was orchestrating deals that shaped industries. The screens filled with numbers: our annual revenue, market capitalization, global influence. Several gasps echoed through the ballroom as the true scale of Phoenix Consulting Group became clear.